Hello there, and welcome to the Sustainable Happiness Save Our Sleep 5-Day Challenge, where every day we learn one quick but effective thing you can do to improve your sleep. And this is for anyone, whether you're struggling with insomnia, which is struggling to fall asleep, or if you're just a regular person looking to improve your sleep quality. And today we're going to be going ahead and talking about how we can actually relax before we get to bed. So it's preparing our body and mind before sleep. So we've talked a little bit about this already in the previous days. We talked about clearing out our mind and preparing our environment and things like that. But we're going to be talking more about specifically just preparing our mind and body in other ways throughout the day as we build up towards bedtime. So the first thing here is exercise. So this doesn't need to necessarily be anything strenuous, but it can just be as simple as making sure you're doing plenty of physical activity throughout the day. The only reason I mention this is because a lot of us have desk jobs or we're doing studying, which is just involving a lot of sitting at a desk. So making sure we're moving around plenty can be really beneficial here. So always making a practice, especially on the weekends and things like that, if you're more introverted and you're kind of staying at home, make sure you're getting up and you're moving about plenty. And I know this is said all the time across the internet, but it really does make just a big difference. And if you can get a workout in, it's really going to do wonders for all aspects of your life. But another huge benefit here is improving your sleep quality, as it kind of tires out your body and makes it much easier for you to fall asleep. Not to mention all the other health benefits, like making sure your lymphatic system is moving around, so clearing out all the toxins in your body, which is of course going to help you sleep, or keeping your cardiovascular system up, which is just going to give you profound mental and physical benefits. So that can really help. But one other thing you're going to want to keep in mind here is making sure you're not exercising too close to bed. So if you're going to do like a extensive workout, so I'm not really talking about something gentle like going for a walk or something like that. I'm more talking about, right, let's go ahead and do like hill sprints or something like that, or let's go and do burpees, or let's do like a powerlifting workout, right? Things like that. We want to try make sure we're doing that roughly 4 hours before bed latest. So we don't really want to have it too close together. Sometimes, like me personally, I tend to do a late night judo training session. So sometimes I do end up doing it within like a few hours before I fall asleep. And that's usually fine because I'm usually so tired that I kind of fall asleep anyway. But if you're exercising a little bit too close to bed, like an hour or half an hour, especially before bed, sometimes I found that it was like, I was really energized, like mentally as well. And so it was really hard for me to fall asleep because I was so hyped up. And another important thing as well that I've noticed is that when you've just gone ahead and done a workout and then you do fall asleep, sometimes you wake up in the night with sweats, which isn't really great. So I think this is just because your body is still in that kind of fight or flight kind of state. And so it's not fully relaxing. And we want to try get more into that kind of parasympathetic state rather than this kind of sympathetic state. So just making sure we kind of have our last intense piece of exercise around a few hours before bed can really help here. But of course, just make sure you're exercising in general. That's the most important point here. And also, in terms of preparing, a few hours before bed, we also want to try and make sure we have our last meal of the day a few hours before bed. Now, again, as I mentioned, I usually do a late night judo session, so I'll come home and I'll make my dinner. And usually we're looking at having my last meal of the day around only a couple of hours before I fall asleep. So ideally, I would be wanting to push that back a bit more. But unfortunately, I can't really do it due to kind of like circumstances. So I totally understand if you have circumstances as well, maybe you can't manage this point here, but just trying to make sure you increase the kind of space between having your last meal of the day and then getting to sleep is really going to help your sleep quality. Now, sometimes if you're like me, you have a big meal and that actually sets you off to sleep. So it can kind of seem like a good thing sometimes, but the only kind of caveat here, or the only problem that can pose sometimes, is that if you've just had a really big meal and then you fall asleep, it can kind of create some indigestion in your body, and sometimes you wake up the next day and you feel a bit kind of bloated or just generally uncomfortable, and that might be because you kind of fell asleep on a full stomach. Now, I'm not trying to scare you here into not falling asleep after eating a big meal or anything, but I'm just more talking about general comfort here. So definitely it can be a lot more comfortable in your body, which is of course going to improve your sleep quality in general, to just go ahead and try have your last meal of the day a few hours before you go to bed. And of course, a really important thing in terms of eating here is what you're eating as well. So I would never really have any kind of sugar for my last meal of the day. I would just make sure I'm not really having any sugar at all that time of the day. I don't personally take caffeine, but if you do take caffeine and coffee and things like that, then I recommend keeping it at the start of the day, because the half-life of caffeine makes it so it kind of keeps you up for quite a while. So you want to try keep it right at the start of the day. That way it's got plenty of hours to work through before you eventually get to sleep. So that's just a little recommendation there. And I totally understand some of you just might not want to do that. You might be quite set in your schedule and you maybe just like having caffeinated coffee at a certain time of the day. And all I would encourage you to do in that case is just to try push it earlier if you can, or just experiment with it for a few days, see if you notice a difference. If you don't notice a difference, then I suppose you don't have to go ahead and follow along with this tip. This is all just kind of general things which have really helped me, and I don't really want to kind of force you to do anything, but I definitely want to encourage you to at least experiment and give things a try and see if it helps improve your overall health and happiness in terms of improving sleep quality here. So yeah, and then the last thing is we've got relaxing activities and things to avoid. So this is really what the main thing you're probably expecting to see in today's video. And this is going to be more like making sure you're doing some more nice wind down activities. Now, we talk about this a lot on YouTube. There's millions of videos talking about relaxing activities you can do before bed. But some nice and easy ones could be as simple as reading a Kindle or reading a book before you go to bed. You could try listening to some relaxing music, which is probably something I tend to do more. Though a lot of the time I tend to just kind of crash out as it is, because I'll usually be working quite late. And it doesn't have to be too rigid and set how it is. It could just be as simple as just trying to wind things down more and avoid some of these more kind of high stimulating activities. So we talked about how eating or exercising too close to bedtime can be quite harmful for that reason. But another thing that can be harmful is, for example, the blue light on devices. So if you can, limiting devices completely can be really beneficial, or just enabling the blue light filter, which is the kind of filters out the blue light, which tends to keep your brain more alert. So having it as more of those kind of warmer colors when you're getting ready for bed can be really beneficial here. And you can apply that to your environment as well. So if you can, maybe investing in using warmer light bulbs in your bedroom can be really beneficial here. So if you want to maybe sit in your bedroom and kind of relax before bed, you can put on a kind of warmer light, and that can really help there. But I understand that's a little bit more of a bigger change. It's not really something you can implement tonight. A nice easy thing you can implement tonight can just be as simple as limiting phone usage or just turning on that blue light filter before you go to bed. And if you still maybe want to do something with your phone, you don't really want to put it away completely, then you could consider just turning your phone over and listening to something. And you don't need to be like too worried about like accidentally looking at your phone and be like, oh no, I've been exposed to blue light, that's me up now. No, it doesn't really work like that. It needs to be kind of like prolonged exposure. So just go ahead and you can try that, and you can just try listening to some stuff, and that can be really helpful to help you relax. And yeah, so that about covers today's video. So hopefully those tips there will help you relax and have a better night's sleep tonight. If you do want to learn more about improving your sleep or just improving your health and happiness in general, then I do have a free non-profit online community and resource hub called Sustainable Happiness, and it's just the top link in the description of this video, or you can also find it as the top link in my bio. So feel free to check that out if you're interested in learning more. And yeah, apart from that, we're going to be moving on to how to wake up well tomorrow for day 5. So this is going to be more about what we do after we've gone to sleep and we've had a good night's sleep. How can we make sure we wake up in a nice way so we don't wake up feeling like death, right? Because that's sometimes part of the problem. Sometimes we actually get our 8 or 9 hours sleep, but then when we wake up, we feel horrible because we've been woken up by like a really disturbing alarm or something like that. So we're going to be talking about how we can handle that problem there, because that can cause people a lot of bother. But apart from that, I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day or night, and I hope you have a lovely good night's sleep. And I'll catch you tomorrow for the next video. Take care.